Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. To get the most out of this video, listen to the introduction to understand what is going to happen astrologically this week and when it will occur. Then use the timestamps in the description box or comments section below to go to your sun, moon and rising signs to see how things will generally affect you. This is a general read of the astrological energies that will be playing out this week. For a specific assessment of how the planetary energies will affect you personally, I would suggest getting a reading with a professional astrologer. You can do so with me through the Guiding Star Astrology website. If you're new to astrology, you are so welcome on this platform. If you would like to learn to read your own astrology chart, you can do a short, fun course with me for $35 Australian. The link is in the description below. Thank you to all my YouTube subscribers and my Patreon family members. Without you, this video and its message would not be possible. Well, hello and welcome to everybody in YouTube land. It is lovely to be with you with this week's Astro Weather Report. And what an interesting time we are in at the moment. Here where I live in Victoria, Australia, we're in our fifth lockdown since all the hoo-ha began in 2020. The fifth time that we've gone into a snap lockdown, and a lot of people are really suffering with this. You know, businesses are folding everywhere, left, right and center. There's so much mental health issues and grieving through this process, and it's just terrible. New South Wales, another state in Australia, is going through a similar scenario at the moment. They're in a state of heavy lockdown as well throughout the entire state, even though really the only cases that have been had are in Sydney. Now, New South Wales, I'm trying to think of a country that it's similar in size to. Look, it might be similar in size to Spain, maybe. And the whole state is in lockdown based on a few cases in the main capital city. So like lots of suffering for everybody in those parts of the world as well. I was recently having or participating in the Astro chat with my Patreon community, and in that chat it was shared that Canada, I wasn't aware of this, but Canada's only just starting to come out of lockdown as well. So we're really still in the throes of this Saturn-Uranus square that's playing out all the way through this year. That authority crackdown kind of energy, and the people's longing to break free and wanting to break free but being restricted in doing so. So difficult times. I know in Europe there's been a lot of information in our media here about COVID passports and so forth, and you know, whatever you think of that, it is an illustration of Saturn-Uranus square, you know, the Saturn authority, control, heavy governmental restrictions and regulations, and the people represented by Uranus and their desire for freedom and to return to sort of a liberated state of life. So it's challenging, it's difficult. We're all aware of this. And I wanted to just touch on this before we get into the astro weather, because it's so pertinent. And again, we're confronted with these situations. We need to draw on our inner strength so much now. I am I'm a believer in angels, and whether or not you align with that, it's entirely up to you. We're a channel here where we allow other people's perspectives and opinions, even when they're different to our own. Mine is that, you know, there are entities and energies watching over us, acting on our behalf, and there are also energies that do not act on our behalf, that have sort of the ill in mind for humanity. But I believe in angels. And I believe that they are a force of energy acting on our behalf, whether you call them angels or spirit guides or whatever, acting on our behalf on the other side, fighting for justice in this circumstance. There's probably a lot going on in the ethereal realms right now, considering what we're seeing manifesting on Earth. Now, as such, I want to support my spirit guides, my angels, the energies that are acting on behalf of justice and fairness and rightness for humanity. How can I do that? Well, we do that by keeping our vibration high. Now, it's hard to keep your vibration high when you're depressed because your business has just collapsed, or you have to move home to live with mum and dad because you have got no source of income any longer and there's no way to pay the mortgage or pay the rent. You know, it's tough. And it's hard to keep your vibration high at those times, absolutely. But it's part of the fight. It's part of the energetic fight that we are all a part of this year. And it's actually the best way to help humanity. You know, getting out there and protesting, you know, that's getting our voices heard about certain issues, whatever the topic might happen to be. You know, I don't have a problem, I'm highly Iranian, I don't have a problem if you want to protest or with people who are protesting. However, the best thing that we can do is to lift our vibration, to lift our energy to a higher plane, which will ultimately support the rise of good. You know, the angels fighting for justice and truth will be supported by the rise in vibration on Earth, simply from my getting in the right energetic state. You're getting in the right energetic state. It helps. It's the best thing we can do. So what does it take to keep our vibration high? What can we do? Well, I want to just suggest checking out your fifth house. So the fifth house is our joy. The fifth house is what brings us delight and a state of happiness. Fifth house. So the fifth house and all its manifestations and are where we can look to give us some guidance around what's going to raise our vibration, what's going to put me in a happier state or a better state of mind or a state of joy. For example, I have Cancer. Cancer is my fifth house in whole sign astrology, and I have 3 planets there, Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. So one thing that makes me feel good when I'm feeling low and I'm feeling really crappy, I jump online onto YouTube and I watch chateau renovation channels on YouTube. I love them. Now, Saturn is construction, to build, to renovate in that sense. And Venus is things of beauty, you know, beautiful chateaus. Cancer is homes. So that's one thing I love to watch, and it lifts my vibration. Mercury is also there. The other thing I love to watch on YouTube is tiny home videos. You know, Mercury is small things. Saturn has to do with restriction too. And so watching videos about homes, Cancer energy, that are small, Mercury, and restricted in some way, Saturn, we're looking at tiny home videos, you know, those little sort of homes on wheels kind of things. I love them. I can't get enough of them. And it brings me joy. And it's funny, it's something so simple. But when I am in just a state of misery and like, especially I'm like, oh, what's going to happen to us all? You know, how are we going to afford to have homes? House prices have gone through the roof because of all this stuff in rural areas, and how are young people going to afford homes? And I get down and I get sad and go into my rabbit hole of, poor me. I jump online, I watch these YouTube videos, and I think, look, it's, you know, you can live in a small house, you can, you know, and it lifts my spirits. So I want to encourage people, what hobbies do you have that make you feel good? Because fifth house is our hobbies, what we like to do just simply for the pleasure of it, not because I'm the next Monet with my artworks, but simply because I love to paint. You know, what hobbies do you love to do that just bring you pleasure for the sake of it? What brings a smile to your face without you even thinking about it, and all of a sudden you're grinning from ear to ear? Well, these things are our fifth house resources. Remember, whenever we have a house that is second house from an angle, as the fifth house is, it represents financial stuff, but resources. So here are your resources for joy. Here are your resources for regaining emotional stability. Fourth house is your emotional stability and situation. Fifth house is your resources for getting emotional stability and equilibrium. So fifth house is your resources for joy. What can you do to access those things? You know, you might have Mercury, not Mercury, well, you might have Mercury, but you might have Gemini as your fifth house. Even if there are no planets in it, in the sign of Gemini, that is still telling you that maybe reading books is a great way to lift your joy, or maybe chatting on the phone with a friend is a great way to lift your joy. check out your 5th house. And if you know any astrology, you should be able to sort of get a few ideas of what can boost your joy and lift your vibration right now. So I'm on Zoom at the moment. I will switch back to my camera very shortly, but I did want to screen share just a little bit about Melbourne and about Sydney. So let me just share my screen here. Let me just hang on a moment. So there we are. Aha, got it right. I'm not very clever at Zoom, in case you hadn't noticed. But here we are with the chart of Melbourne, where there is currently, we've gone into our 5th lockdown. And as you can see in this, here is the progressed ascendant right here. That's the green progressed ascendant. What's it conjunct with? Hello, Pluto. Pluto ruling pandemics and epidemics. No surprises there that the journey of Melbourne as a city is now making a connection with Pluto. Also, we notice here that transiting Jupiter, what's it conjunct with? Natal Uranus in this chart. What's that telling us? Sudden, unexpected events occur in the 6th house of health and well-being. You know, so sudden Jupiter amplifies the energy of Uranus, sudden unexpected events. And remember, Jupiter is currently retrograding. It will go over this point direct again in January. So yeah, 2022. So that's something to be aware of as well if you're in Victoria or Melbourne particularly. Transiting Uranus, I also notice in this chart, is up here, and it has been transiting recently, not quite exact at the moment, but just very recently it's been traveling across Venus. What is Venus in this chart? Venus rules the 1st house in whole sign astrology, Libra, the actual personification of Melbourne as a city. And what else does Venus rule? And where is Venus located? In the 8th house of crisis. Uranus brings sudden unexpected upheaval in the house of crisis to the personification of Melbourne as a city. So we're seeing there where some of this triggering is coming from in the chart of Melbourne. Now I'm going to stop the share. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to change my screen, and now I will share screen again. Look at me, I'm getting this. Fantastic. Here is the chart of Sydney. I want to look at similar things. Progressed moon. Where is the progressed moon? Here. It is crossing in the 8th house, I might add. The 8th house of the chart of Sydney. Remember, the 8th house is crisis. The 8th house is transformation, and here it is crossing. The south node is here, like here's the north node at 20 degrees. So it will be crossing this year. See this green line? That's telling us where the progressed moon is going to move to in the space of a year. It's going to cross the south node. It's going to cross Mercury. It's going to cross Mars in the 8th house. This is quite a year of upheaval for Sydney, and in that sense, it could just be beginning because we're having 8th house activation, south node as well activation, which is highly karmic. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The progressed moon, not only is it moving here, but it's moving opposite throughout the course of this year. It will move opposite Jupiter, opposite the north node. It is currently right now, as we speak, opposite Saturn. So Saturn has, plays a part in what 2020 brought about, didn't it? Like Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto conjunction was part of all this. But really in the chart, when we're looking at epidemics and pandemics, pardon me, we need to look at the activities of either the 8th house, Scorpio, and mostly Pluto. So in this chart, we have natal Pluto's here, not much happening to it, but hang on a minute, there is going to be a square to natal Pluto from the progressed moon this year. That's going to be playing out. And what is transiting Pluto triggering is another thing we want to look at. Boom, transiting Pluto in the red, retrograding across the progressed sun of the chart of Sydney. What is the sun? Our confidence, how we shine in the world. Well, really, Pluto is having a bit of a field day with Sydney and really usurping or creating issues with how it shines in the world. You know, Sydney, this party city and holiday city, not quite so appealing at the moment due to a pandemic. Pluto on the progressed sun. Now, you'll notice something as well, because the progressed sun is here at around sort of 25-ish degrees of the sign of Capricorn. What is going to be opposite it this year? The progressed moon. And when it does so, it's conjuncting the natal sun. So really what they're having is sort of a sun is halfway around the horoscope for itself here. And so half sun, I can't remember what that's actually called, but also they're going to have their progressed full moon this year. This is a fruition of something that has been building in the life of Sydney, possibly for a long time, and possibly because of Pluto's involvement, something karmic, possibly also because it's happening so close to the nodes, within orb of the nodes. It's very karmic fruiting that's happening in the chart of Sydney. So I just wanted to share all those things that are happening there. Back to me. Now, last July, I had a channeling session, just when all this hoo-ha was really getting cracking in Australia in terms of lockdowns and what have you. At that time, I had a channeling session with a very famous channeler, a brilliant channeler, and she's no longer practicing, to my great heartbreak, but she's retired, but absolutely brilliant channeler. And I shared a portion of that channeling with my Patreon community. It was a prophecy about what was going on with the pandemic and what was happening. Very, very on point, I might add. Now, I was told in this channeling session that this pandemic is karmic, and that the suffering of various parts of the world, and various countries, various even individuals, it's connected to their karma, and it's a karmic reckoning essentially, and that's very Pluto. Pluto in evolutionary astrology is a highly karmic planet. And we see it as a planet connected to the karma of trauma and suffering. It's also the medicine, but it is initially in this stage, it is the karma of trauma and suffering. It rules the evolution of the soul and how the soul is growing and flourishing and progressing and hopefully moving upward to enlightenment. Sometimes as the soul moves down the ladder as well, we don't want to see that. But this karmic reckoning is calling us to task as a collective in the various places where things are really hot in terms of this pandemic, shall we say. Not hot literally, I'll just add. Now, Pluto rules elimination, and it rules things like getting rid of what is not working. That's why it correlates to toilets, and it correlates to tips and plumbing and composting. All those things are what Pluto rules, because it is about excretion and dissolving, getting rid of what is not right, what is not working. So what's going on here? It looks like New South Wales and Victoria, and also other parts of the world that are heavily under Pluto's fingers with the pandemic right now, they're potentially having trouble getting rid of what is not working, what is like their karma, their stuff that is not the truth, not real, not good for them. Now, when we go through a Pluto transit as individuals, what is happening is that we have suppressed something and hidden it down and ignored it and denied that it's even a part of us, usually something to do with our shadow side. And Pluto says, you're not going to hide that down any longer. You're not going to keep that suppressed any longer. We're going to bring this out into the light so it can be transmuted, transformed, and healed. That's what Pluto does in individual lives, usually through the course of, say, a Pluto square or something. And this karmic reckoning that is unfolding now across the world is exactly that. It's bringing up the muck. It's bringing up the hidden agendas, the evil and corruption and manipulation that's been going on behind the scenes with so many of our governments. And so that's all being brought forth to be karmically dealt with. And I feel, according to this prophecy that I received, in alignment with that, I feel that if we continue to keep going back into lockdown, back into lockdown, back into lockdown, Victoria's in its 5th lockdown, you've got to question, are we dealing with our karmic muck, or is it still playing out? Is it still existing there? Have we not cleaned out the basement? And I don't think we have. So both charts, as I've just illustrated, have Pluto highly active now. This is in Sydney and Melbourne. You might like to check out the charts for your part of the world if you're in heavy sort of lockdown or, you know, heavy pandemic situation. Check out your chart and see what Pluto or the 8th house or Scorpio are busy with in the chart of the city where you live. But Pluto, I'm just using the illustration of Melbourne and Sydney because they're very pertinent to where I am. But Pluto reminds us to ask ourselves, how are we burning our karma? How are we dealing with our karma? How are we confronting those hidden parts of ourselves, those hidden karmic yucky bits that we need to release? Are we actively eliminating what's not working in our lives, what's not true to us any longer, what's not what we're not acknowledging? Are we working to eliminate the feelings, the thoughts, the processes that need to go? Or does Pluto have to step in and create some sort of crisis or turmoil, very 8th house, to make these things happen? So ask yourself that. If you're suffering, if you're going through a difficult time in any situation, but whenever you're having a Pluto transit is really what I'm talking about here, what is happening that Pluto is wanting you to transform, to heal, to compost out of your life and make space for the new to enter in? It's a time for our own inner reckoning. So how we can burn our karma, that's really simple. That's really, really simple. It is a 6th house energy. That's how we burn karma. We look to our 6th house. Basically, the 6th house, what's it all about? Serving, helping, healing, fixing, making right. If we can look to do those sorts of things, then we can start to burn our karma. And maybe that's the issue with our New South Wales and Victorian governments. Maybe they're all about power, my authority, don't question it, do what you're told. And they've lost the focus on service. How can I serve this community? How can we heal this community? How can we fix what's not working? I think that they've thrown that out and it's all draconian. You will do what I say and you will follow these rules and you will, that they've lost the plot in my estimation. You know, feel free to think what you think, but that I feel that they have lost that heart of service and therefore they're not burning their karma, as Pluto would ask us to do right now under a Pluto transit. And, you know, we can ask the same thing. How can we serve? How can we heal? How can we fix? And it doesn't mean necessarily that, you know, by giving up our life and going and being a missionary to help the poor or the sick, you know, that is what we all have to go and do if we're going to burn karma. It can be as simple as your next door neighbor has the flu, so you make a casserole for them to feed their family because they're too ill to cook dinner for themselves. Or it might be that my daughter did this, and I use this illustration a lot in my readings. She was out mowing our front nature strip one day. She noticed that the nature strips on either side of it belonging to our neighbours were shaggy and overgrown, and she was like, I'll just mow their lawn. You know, that is service. That's looking for what needs fixing, what could be improved. Okay, that needs improving, I'll just do it. You know, no reward, no accolades, no thanks. She didn't, I thanked her, but the neighbours didn't. You know, it's just simply, how can I serve? And just let me serve. You know, and if we all adopt this attitude, wouldn't the world change overnight? If we adopt, how can I serve? How can I fix? How can I heal? Then we would find that there wouldn't be any inequality or imbalance in the world that we see so prevalent if everybody actively looked to fix what was broken, what was not working, what needed healing. And isn't that a better option than wagging the finger, you're doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, and tinfoil hat wearers are this and da-da-da-da. If we just look to fix what's not working in our world, in our life, with our connections, in our relationships and so on, we actually start to burn our karma. And that's really what we want to see happening here. Now, This actually does tie into the energy that I want to discuss for each sign this week. We're talking about a major activation of the solar eclipse that occurred at 8 degrees of Gemini last November 30th. Now, this is happening on the 29th of July this week. So check in the description box below for when and what time it's happening in your part of the world. The nodes of the moon are what is causing this activation of this eclipse point that occurred back last November. And the node is moving across the eclipse point. And whenever we have a nodal involvement, there's usually some sort of karmic reckoning or karmic influence that is playing out. For example, if the south node's involved, it's like something from the past coming back that needs to be completed, dealt with, finished, finalized. When the north node's involved, it's something to do with building our karma, creating new karma for the future. So I want to share the chart of this eclipse. Let me just pause for a second and get this up. I love that recording in progress voice, don't you? I'm going to share this now, share the screen. And as I do, I want to just ask, what planets do you have, if you have any, or manifestation points, key points do you have at 8 degrees of Gemini, or even 8 degrees of Sagittarius as well? And what planets are there? What do they symbolize in your chart? What houses do those planets rule in your chart? Because that's where you can expect to see change with this manifestation that's coming from the activation of the eclipse back on the 30th of November. So here is the chart of the eclipse. You can see 8 degrees of Sagittarius was where the sun was, and 8 degrees of 8 degrees of Gemini, sorry, went blank, is where the moon was. And here were the nodes out at 19 degrees. Now, if I add transits to this, and hopefully that comes up for you. I hope that's showing. You will see here is the node now having moved from here where it was during the eclipse up into a conjunction with the point that the moon was full here. So the south node is with the sun, the north node is with the moon. Again, if you have planets around these points, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel this activation. If you don't have planets, maybe you just, be passing energy. We'll talk about that with the all signs breakdown. But whatever happens in your life between now and the 10th of August, because the north node of the moon and the south node of the moon are going to be at this point from the 29th of July until the 10th of August, whatever happens in that frame of time, it is actually an activation that is happening because of the eclipse that occurred at that point back in November last year. And it's designed to take you further into your destiny as a soul incarnate in this lifetime. Why is that? Because the north node is with the full moon. It's moving into the future. It's creating new karma for yourself. So, what were you doing in November? What was playing out in your life in November around the 30th, you might be getting a karmic retribution from that now, for good or worse. There might be a fruiting of something wonderful in your life because of what was happening in your world at that time. Or there could be, the karma comes back to get you if you were up to no good around the 30th of November last year when this eclipse occurred. Now, this was not an easy eclipse. As you can see in this chart, we had Venus opposing Uranus, and that is challenging. That's upheavals, that's difficulties and sort of things that are unexpected. We also have, and it's not shown on this chart, I won't take the time to get it up here, but there was also a conjunction of the sun with Antares as well. That was also triggered. So Antares is around here, and Betelgeuse, is it Betelgeuse or Aldebaran is opposite? I'm going to check that. Bear with me just a second. I'll just make sure I've got the right fixed star off the top of my head there. Aldebaran. Yes. So Aldebaran is with the moon, and Antares is with the sun. And so Antares is a very antagonistic star. It's one of the royal stars, yes, but it is connected to leadership, but of a military sort, and it can be like a very militant kind of energy and a very sort of fighting kind of energy. So this was a difficult activation because of the opposition of Uranus and Venus, and because Antares was involved. And I'll also point out that Aldebaran does have connections as well with when it's in certain configurations in the chart with diseases too. So it was a difficult eclipse, and the Saros cycle was fairly neutral as well. It wasn't anything flash. So what does that then mean? Well, during this time, the activation of this eclipse might cause some upheaval for people with planets around this 8-degree mark, or within, you know, maybe you could use a 3 or 4 degree orb, 5 degrees at a push. So upheaval for people with planets in those positions. For example, when we have an eclipse like this, a solar eclipse, we can see some solar person being eclipsed out of our life under this energy. So sorry, it's not a solar eclipse, it's a lunar eclipse. So there can be a lunar person eclipsed out of your life. Could be some maternal person, a female figure, that kind of thing can sometimes happen in some circumstances, you know. This is actually triggering my chart. It's triggering my 4th house of the maternal line. So I want to connect with my mum, make sure that she knows I love her, make sure that, you know, there's a really good rapport between us right now. We don't know what the eclipses can bring, but to be forewarned is forearmed, and you can, you know, make amends where it needs making amends, or connect and give love where it needs to be given. And it's important to know your astrology. So the activation could also trigger riots and revolts. It could trigger erratic tension in maternal figures. So that might be the case, you know, maternal figures, or sort of lunar figures, as we described. We might get some tension in the maternal line maybe as well. But if you've got a planet like Mercury here, it might give you tension with friends, neighbors, siblings, that sort of thing. So erratic tension correlating to what the planet rules and what the planet's all about that you might have in your chart at this point. There might be some difficulty with finances. There might be some breakups that occur under this energy. Remember, this is a karmic reckoning too, so keep that in mind, and it's building karmic future. That's why we're tying in all this karmic activation into this talk. So that's all very heavy duty, isn't it? How can we cope if we're impacted? Well, I want to encourage you, remember to keep your vibration high. And I mentioned how to do that a little earlier in this reading. I want to encourage you to be more detached, more observant, more accepting of whatever is unfolding in your life. What is to be will be. You know, we all go through our difficult times. There will always be changes and upheavals that come in life, and being flexible, learning from them, going with the flow of what the universe is trying to do is really the only way to get through them. The more we resist, the more we deny, the more we suppress, the tougher life is. Keep that in mind as well. So being flexible, being trusting of what is happening, and realizing that ultimately it's always for your highest good. Keep the end in mind. Whatever happens is for the ultimate growth of your soul. That's always the way with an eclipse, even though it doesn't feel like it, even though, you know, it feels like all hell breaks loose, or, you know, there's so much upheaval or whatever. We need to keep the really big picture in mind. And by big picture, I'm talking about one incarnation to the next incarnation, to the next incarnation, to this one, to the one after, to the one after that, to the one after that. Big picture. There is a purpose here that we do not have the perspective in this one life to see. We have to trust that there is divine purpose in what's unfolding, and that before we incarnated, we actually signed up for this journey. We chose this journey. I'm just going to stop share now. We chose this journey that we're having, and so there is purpose here. Just flow with it. Just go with it. So keep the end in mind. So in a more general sense, we might be seeing a change now happening for us in the house that is ruled by the sign of Gemini. And that's what I'm going to cut to now. We're going to go and look at what is unfolding each week for each sign based on where Gemini falls and what might be being impacted. A shake-up, change, the unexpected, tension, uncertainty. Let's check it out now. I'll stop my Zoom meeting and we'll go to my camera. So here we are with the wonders of modern technology and editing. Here we are with the Astro Wheel looking at Gemini for each sign. So we'll start with Gemini, and this is where the eclipse activation this week is occurring for you. I will point out that there are many other energies playing out this week as well in the sky. If you want to know about what energies are playing out week to week and you want to know all the nitty-gritty details, follow my YouTube, you do follow my YouTube, hopefully. Follow my Facebook or Instagram pages, or sign up for my email. You'll get a monthly email with the energies that are coming up ahead in the month ahead. So you can check things out there. But today we're looking at the activation of the November 30th eclipse. And so the shake-up for Gemini people is happening to do with themselves. There's going to be more of a change that happens to you. Maybe you change your perspective, you change your attitude in some way, shape or form in life, and then that causes external shifts to manifest for you. You know, you have a different perspective on a person, or a different perspective on an experience, or a different perspective on an ideology or something that you've adhered to, and that change causes a shift in your external circumstances. So general life shifts and shake-ups and rebirthing are what occurs when it's falling in the first house. Changes maybe happen to your appearance potentially. This is the house of our presentation to the world and how we are perceived by the world. And so here there might be a change to how you present image-wise to the world. There might be some tension that you're experiencing very personally in your life, and maybe a bit of uncertainty about your ability to thrive, survive, and flourish into the future. This is a pioneering energy in the first house. And it's very much about taking action, taking steps towards a future, being entrepreneurial, being a go-getter, taking a risk. And there might be some tension about taking a risk, some tension about stepping out, some tension about going forward in some way this week due to the activation of the eclipse, and some uncertainty with those things as well. If you are feeling that way, maybe the best solution, apart from going with the flow and all the things I mentioned in the intro to this reading, maybe the best solution is just to sit tight and let the energy pass over the next few days. Remember, this energy is active from the 29th of July through to the 10th of August. All right, let's move along and have a look at Cancer, rising, sun or moon. Well, the activation of the eclipse on the 29th of July through to the 10th of August is happening for you in your 11th house where Gemini sits. So this is the area where you might be getting a shake-up. You might be feeling some tension. Here it could be spiritual tension, could be anxiety of a spiritual nature. It could be creative tension, you know. I'm not talking about blockage so much like writer's block and what have you, but you might get like really out of this world like inspiration, but it's so overwhelming, you know, so that it's just all consuming and it causes a shake-up in your well-being perhaps. You know what it's like? I think about the artists and what have you who lock themselves away for weeks at a time, and they just get the inspiration, you know, beyond anything comparable to just sit and write or sit and paint and do whatever they do. That's what we're talking about. You could get a massive hit, a massive download creatively or spiritually, but it shakes you up. It shakes you out of your ordinary routine. Remember, the opposite of Gemini is routines. Sixth house. Sorry, not the opposite of Gemini. The opposite for you, Cancer, of Gemini, but the opposite of the 12th house is the 6th house. So of routines. And so this is the 12th house is where there's something so creative, so inspiring that happens. It just absolutely disrupts your everyday routine and your everyday ordinary life. So there can be some shake-ups that happen regarding this, some change, the unexpected downloads, even unexpected insights that come to you karmically, like You might have a dream. 12th house is dreams. You might have a dream and it's actually a recollection of a past life. And there's a processing that needs to unravel because you are dealing with some past life issues. 12th house is past life, some past life experiences that come to the surface that you have to navigate and karmically deal with now. So it's very much for Cancer people, karmic fruiting energy, this 12th house experience of North Node, eclipse activation that's going on. So this could bring tension into your life as these karmic issues come up to be dealt with and finalized and wash your hands of, hopefully, and move beyond. But there will be some uncertainty, maybe even some significant upheaval as you deal with those things, Cancer people. For Leo rising, sun or moon people, the energy of the eclipse activation is falling in the 11th house of friendships. So this is, I'm a Leo sun, this is already playing out in my life. I'm seeing this already shaking up right now as I'm recording this a few days before the activation occurs. So house of friendships, house of group involvements, house of humanitarian action and social action. It's a social house, the 11th house. So this is where you might be getting a shake-up. You might be redefining your friendship circles. You might be redefining what you commit yourself to regarding humanitarian action, social action, group involvement. You might be, well, I'll use myself as an illustration. I'm wanting to pull back from some of the involvements that I've had. I'm wanting to change some of the involvements that I've had. So there's this real shake-up of your friendship circles, a shake-up of how you are involving yourself socially with the world at large, with the community, with the people out there. That's 11th house. So you really will be going through a redefinition of this, and it'll come with some tension. It'll come with some upheaval, and could be causing you to feel quite uncertain about some of the connections and social interactions that you have. Now, this is also a house of goals, dreams, aspirations as well. So shake-ups, tensions, upheavals, change with regard to your goals, with regard to your dreams, with regard to your aspirations for the future. There might be potentially, not all eclipses and eclipse activations are bad, so please don't think that, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. That's not what I'm saying. But there could be some shifts with regard to how you're going to get to your goal. You might have thought, I have to go down this path. And then along comes the eclipse, and suddenly a new avenue is presented to you, a new option, a new opportunity, and you're like, I could take that road. I might go down that road instead. So changes, shifts, alterations with how you're going to get to your goals, how you're going to manifest your dreams. There might even be, for some people, a complete change of goal, a complete change of dream, a change of aspiration that occurs because of some event that unfolds this week for you Leo people. So Virgo rising, sun or moon people, the energy of the eclipse eclipse activation is falling in the 10th house. So this is where you're going to get a shake-up. Shake-up in how you're doing career. A shake-up in how you are dealing with authority figures. People sorry about that. Let me just turn off my noise in the background. A shake-up with people that you look up to and respect. Authority figures, sort of people up there, higher on the mountain climb than you. And there can be a change with how you deal with those people, how you interact with those people. There can be some tension with those people as well. People who are your bosses, people who are in powerful places. There can be some uncertainty with them. You don't know where you stand. There's certainly, with this eclipse activation, going to be a change in the dynamic that you have with some of those types of people, a change in the dynamic of your career, and a change in how you attain your worldly success as well. Remember, this is karmic. Very karmic, because that's what eclipses do. They bring karmic fruiting, or they build karma for the future. And so what is playing out now, the changes that are occurring, are karmic fruiting of some action that you've undertaken in the past in order to build some new future for yourself as well. So expect the unexpected. Regarding career, and the actions that you're taking towards having success in the world. There might be need for a review of the actions that you are taking to achieve success in the world and how you're going about achieving success in the world. That might need to be, changed somehow or reviewed because something comes up, there's a shake-up or a realignment occurs in how you are achieving your success in the world and how you are manifesting your reputation. Then, and because this is a house of reputation, you might also need to review, well, what is my reputation? And there might need to be some changes made there with how you are being present in the world regarding your career. So there could be some change, some tension there regarding the reputation that you've built for yourself in some way as well. Forewarned, forearmed. Okay, Libra rising sun or moon people. The energy of the eclipse activation is happening for you in the very lucky 9th house, lucky Libras. And so what this might mean though is that there's a tension, a shaking up, a change of energy with 9th house things. So you might have thought you had all like the divine downloads of wisdom and knowledge, which is a 9th house thing. That might get turned on its head. It might get shaken up somehow, and suddenly you see that maybe your it's a house of dogma, your dogmatic approach, your zealous approach to some thought pattern or belief system or something wasn't quite right. And that can shake your foundations, it can change your whole perspective, and you might have to double think your dogmatic approach to something. For Libran people, there might be an unexpected new source of wisdom or insight that comes to you through this eclipse activation. There can be some tension regarding what you believe right now. Some, not attacks, but just some uncertainty regarding what you actually do align with in terms of belief under this energy. This is also the house of inspirational figures, people that, not in authority over us, but people that we look up to and respect. And so there can be some shifts now with regard to those people. You might see them in a new light. You might get some clarity around them. Maybe even, because we're talking about eclipse activation, some of these kind of people who you look up to and respect and admire might be eclipsed out of your life in some way, And by eclipsed, I don't mean they're going to die necessarily, but it might mean that, you have a mentor in your town and you've loved meeting with them once a month for your mentor session, and they up and say, hey, I'm going to move to the other side of the country. Suddenly, the eclipse causes them to no longer be in your life. This is also an energy of moving, of traveling, of changing place. So for some Librans, this might be a triggering of changing place, moving in an unexpected way. There might be some tension around sort of doing some travel, and we're talking big scale travel for the purposes of expanding your heart, your soul, your mind as well with this also. So expect change. Expect that you might travel in some way and you will grow through the process of traveling. It's not so much an energy of moving home. That's not really what we're seeing here, although it is activating the full moon that occurred. So the moon does have to do with home. So, maybe in that sense it could, for some people, be representing home. If you have your moon at around 8 degrees of Gemini and you're a Libra rising person, then it could be indicating a move to a new house. But generally this is about travels and trips, not so much relocation in a general sense, that is. So shake-ups, tensions, maybe some tension around a trip that you had planned, or unexpected changes that have to be made regarding a journey that you're going to take, changes and unexpected upheavals that might occur regarding some university subject you were going to study, or a course you were going to undertake, or some publishing contract that you had set up in some realm of your life. And there's an upheaval there, there's a change there. This is also legal matters can be seen also. If you have to come before a judge for something, legal matters can be seen through the 9th house as well. So expect the unexpected, and there could be upheaval, there could be change regarding some sort of legal matter, and tension regarding a legal matter as well as a result of this eclipse activation. For Scorpio rising, sun or moon people, the energy of the eclipse activation is falling for you in the 8th house, an energy you're very familiar with. But this is going to give you some upheaval, some shake-ups, some unexpected energy, and it's to do with 8th house things. So here in the 8th house, well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that you might have been doing some psychological work on yourself, doing some deep introspection, doing some, reading some self-help books and so forth to help you understand your journey of life. And you might get a shake-up from one of those things, from your psychological work, from your deep introspective work, from your journaling and therapy practices. You might suddenly get some revelation that's just like, OMG, shake up, change in perspective, really turns your life around 180 degrees. That's the kind of thing we might see happen. You also, potentially, Scorpio rising people might see a shift and something unexpected occur with money that belongs to other people, like inheritances, taxes, tax returns, superannuation, all those sorts of money that is belonging sort of in the hands of somebody else. There could be something unexpected happen. There could be tension with that. Am I going to get my tax return this year? Oh my God, grandma just died and she left me out of the will. There can be tension and shake-ups and frustrations in the realm of other people's money. Also, this is the house of community property as well. So it can indicate that there might be some tension with some sort of community property in your life. So there might be a local hall or a public park or the swimming pool that is run by the council or something. And there's some sort of uncertainty, tension, difficulty that this eclipse activation triggers regarding that public property, that community resource. That's what we see here. Other people's resources could be your partner's resources that go through some sort of upheaval if you're a Scorpio rising person. They could be shaken up in some way. Now, by shaken up, I'm using kind of negative illustrations here, like, oh, you miss out on the will, or there's a problem with X, Y, Z. But look, this is also a house of windfalls. Getting that return from your investment in the stock exchange. Or, like I said, inheritances, things you receive from, grandma when she passes away. So it could be that you get an unexpected inheritance, an unexpected, tax return, that kind of thing. Things happen that are out of the blue. You didn't see them coming. Very much the nature of eclipses as well. So expect a shake-up with regard to other people's finances, regard to your own psychological discoveries and introspective work about the self, your own therapy and healing work. Expect to be shaken out of your tree a bit, Scorpio, with regard to those things. Also sex. There could be something that happens to you sexually, like not anything negative, but a sexual experience could be transformative for you, could really turn your life around, could be very unexpected, could really shake you up. Or you might have some tension around a sexual experience. It's not an energy for having a horrible sexual experience. It's an energy for being changed because of your sex life or a sexual experience that you have. So heads up on that one. Sagittarius rising, sun, moon people. What we're seeing here, I might need to hold my board steady. Likes to take a walk when it's on Gemini and Sagittarius. No coincidences there, because they are a restless, mutable energy that likes to travel. So I love how astrology aligns with everything. Okay, Sagittarius rising, sun or moon puts the eclipse in the 7th house. So for Saggy people, and I've noticed this in so many Sagittarian people's lives, just watch your relationships now, your business partnerships, your connections, your contracts, your marriages. anything of a contractual committed nature is seen from the 7th house, and it's here there might be some change, some tension, some upset, some upheaval. Remember, it's karmic and there is purpose in the long range view to what is going on, but it doesn't make these things any easier to deal with as they occur unless we can learn to completely detach and flow. So for Sagittarius rising people, there could be some tension with other people, tension with clients, uncertainty with clients, uncertainty with a marriage partner, uncertainty with a business partner, unexpected behavior. You know, other people might be really acting out and you're like, whoa, hang on, no way, where's this coming from? That kind of thing. There could be like shake-ups in the life of your partner. Your partner might be going through a really tough time right now, and you might have to get in there and support them. They could be going through some sort of upheaval or cataclysm or unexpected event. Not necessarily a bad one, but an unexpected event nonetheless, as is the nature of eclipse activation. So, be there for your partner, and also be patient and understanding if your partner is just losing it a bit, because it's your partners in life that are going to be activated by this eclipse. And, we always, when we're dealing with other people, need to act with as much presence as we can and grace. And let's be honest, we don't always do that. We have times when we fall down. That is being human, and so if your partner is going through a rough time, a bit of forgiveness might be necessary, a bit of compassion might be necessary, a bit of understanding might be necessary. Expect the unexpected and be there for your partners when you can. One thing I will also add, it's not very nice, but when we have an eclipse on our descendant degree, ascendant-descendant axis, this is the relationship axis, which is the axis of committed partnerships. When an eclipse happens, we can sometimes see divorce come in or a separation occur because the eclipse will change things. And if it's not part of where you're at and your soul's journey from here on to be in that relationship or business partnership or whatever is ending, then the eclipse activation will shake you out of that, and you'll go down another road and say thanks for everything, and wrapped up our karmic endings, and now let's go our separate ways. So that is also possible as a manifestation of eclipse energy as well. Remember, it can play out in a number of different ways for different people, depending on what planets are here, depending on the configuration of your chart and how it's interplaying with that. But I need to give all avenues, and that's one of the expressions of an eclipse on the relationship axis. All right. For Capricorn rising, sun and moon people, the energy of the eclipse is falling for you in the 6th house. Not easy, especially if you've got planets here. You might get upheavals at work, upheavals with employees, upheavals with staff, upheavals that come because of enemies in your life, people who just want to see you done in, want to see you fail, want to see you fall on your face. And the eclipse energy can activate a shake-up or some tension with those people. So be prepared. That can be a thing. Now, hopefully, because we're all living in spiritual enlightenment, we don't have many people in our lives that are like that. But sometimes, even when we have a heart of gold, those people pop up and you're like, what am I doing to cause these people to be present in my life? Maybe we need to explore those sorts of questions. What am I doing to cause these people to be present in my life? So changes, unexpected energy, tension with enemies, with employees, with staff, and also maybe a bit of a change with your routine and your situation with your health practices, your exercise, maybe a change in your diet. You might visit the doctor and the doctor says, well, look, it's time you stopped eating gluten and dairy, and you're like, oh. So there is, that's one of the manifestations. It's not every manifestation is going to be neon signs and flashing, Nevada, Las Vegas lights. It can be subtle, like, the doctor telling you you've got to, you're diabetic now, you've got to eat differently. Something like that. Some change, some upheaval, something unexpected regarding diet, regarding health, regarding well-being, regarding daily routine. and subordinates, etc., as I described. So expect some tension in those realms, expect some uncertainty to be triggered because of this eclipse activation, Capricorn. Aquarius rising, sun or moon people. Well, for you guys, this energy is falling in the 5th house, the second luckiest house in the horoscope. And this is where you might be experiencing a shake-up, a change, some uncertainty, some tension. 5th house things. So there might be some tension with your children. You might be feeling a bit at odds with your children. There might be some upheaval with your children. They might be changing. They might suddenly, seemingly, have grown up overnight, and you have to adjust your relationship because they're no longer little kids. Suddenly they're big, semi-adult teenagers, changes, shake-ups that appear to happen all of a sudden with children. Just lavish a lot of love on your children now, Aquarius people, because your children might be going through some challenging experiences themselves because of this eclipse activation. So be there for your kids, as every good parent should. There might be some shake-ups and some challenges with lovers, with boyfriends, with girlfriends. And so some people might finish relationships, boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. They might say, oh, I've had enough, calling it a day. That can happen under this eclipse activation. There can be some uncertainty with love relationships. Do they really like me? Is this something I want for the future? Is it going anywhere? That sort of thing can happen. Unexpected events, boyfriend walks out and you didn't see that coming, those sorts of really big shake-ups that is what happens usually with an eclipse, especially if it's falling with natal planets in the 5th house as well. The 5th house is what gives us pleasure, what gives us joy, as I said in the intro. I hope you check that out. And so there might be a complete change of pace with what gives you pleasure, what gives you joy, what raises your vibration. You might have always loved reading science fiction books, and that was your source of joy. But lo and behold, along comes an eclipse. You try to read your usual Jules Verne or some other science fiction writer, and you're like, I can't stomach this anymore. I'm over this. I'm done with science fiction books. Give me a crime, give me a mystery, give me a thriller, and there's a complete shake-up and change with regard to what brings you joy, with regard to your hobbies, your interests, your pleasures might go through a big shift, some unexpected change as well. Unexpected change can happen to your creative expression. This is a house of creative expression. So you might have always painted in a certain style. Lo and behold, this eclipse happens on a significant point in your chart, and you're no longer interested in painting like Monet. Now you're going to be doing surrealist, photography or something. You do something completely different. There's a change in your creative expression that unfolds because of this eclipse. So don't be surprised to see a complete about-face and change of direction with how you are expressing yourself to the world. All right, moving along. Pisces rising, sun or moon people. My precious Pisces. This is falling in our 4th house, and I did allude to this in the intro a little bit. For us, it's falling in the house of the maternal line. It is also an eclipse that where the moon is being hidden by the shadow of the earth moving across the moon. So what that is saying is a lunar person might be being eclipsed out of our life in some way. And in the 4th house, the maternal line, it could be a mother figure, a maternal figure, an older woman, someone in our maternal line, like a grandmother or an aunt or something like that, where they suddenly are gone from our life. If this is happening on a manifestation point or a planet, it could well be the case. Be prepared for that. Forewarned is forearmed. So what have I got to say about that? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh my God, they're going to die. I'm not saying that. It might mean that Auntie Helen decides she's going to move to another country. And you're going to see her probably for the last time because you'll never catch up again. You don't intend to go to that country, and that's the end of the story, So there is some maternal figure being eclipsed out of our life. Or maybe mum decides she needs to retrain in something, and so she moves to Perth, and again there is the distance, the separation, the sort of eclipsing out of our life that happens with some sort of maternal figure. It could mean a falling out with a maternal figure, and suddenly you don't speak to each other for a period of time. It could mean a disappearance of another sort, the passing away, moving into the next life. For some people, that is what will be triggered. Okay. Now, that's the hard stuff for Pisces of how this could manifest. There are other ways that this eclipse can manifest as well. Sorry, I keep flicking my hair. It's really annoying me today. But the other ways that this eclipse can manifest also. Maybe you might change homes. You might move to a new place. The eclipse activation might trigger you sort of selling a house and buying a new one, or downsizing or upsizing in terms of house. You might get an opportunity to establish a beautiful garden, or you might get the chance to change your domestic life in some way. Suddenly one of your children says, hey, I'm going to cook dinner for the next week, and you're like, bonus. Your domestic life alters and shifts in some way. There might be a chance to redecorate. They might get a chance to do some renovations, but shake-ups, changes, alterations in domestic life, home environment, and with that family dynamic and maternal line. It may come with some tension. If you have to move all of a sudden, that can bring tension into your life. It can bring uncertainty. Oh, we've got to get out of our house. Where are we going to move to? Quick, let's find a place. Oh, it's very hard to find a place. Yikes. But just keep in mind the big picture. As I said in the intro, there is purpose to this for your soul's journey. Whatever unfolds, it's happening to grow you, to move you towards your next step in the evolutionary ladder and the climb up to enlightenment. So there is purpose, there is meaning behind the shifts that will be unfolding with this eclipse activation. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it all happens for the good as well. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you win a house lottery and you get to move to a beautiful location. Let's hope that that's what comes. Aries rising sun or moon people. The energy of the eclipse is playing out down here in your third house. Now, this is where there could be some tensions, some uncertainty, some shakeups, maybe with a sibling or a relative or a neighbor, and you just don't know where you stand with them, and they become a bit standoffish, and you sort of have there's some difficulty, there's some angst between a neighbor, angst between you and a sister or a brother or something like that. A sister or a brother or a neighbor or a relative could be eclipsed out of your life as well, and by that I mean potentially they might move away, they might decide that they don't want to talk to you anymore, there might be some sort of upheaval between the two of you, and so they're suddenly not in your life. That's what we're looking at here. It doesn't always mean a death. Eclipses are very much linked to death in ancient cultures, but it doesn't always mean that. It means that some relative, sibling, neighbor might no longer be present in your life in the way that they once were. There can be some change and some uncertainty with a small business for Aries rising people who are usually very entrepreneurial, Aries rising sun or moon. And so there might be some tension with a small business, some upheavals with a small business. That's certainly been the case for everybody in Victoria and New South Wales in Australia because of COVID lockdowns. Shake-ups with small business. There also might be some shake-ups and some tensions and some upheaval with your skill sets. Maybe you're feeling like your particular set of skills is no longer cutting the mustard, and better go back and retrain, and something happens with the eclipse activation that points that out to you. You know what? I don't have the skill that I thought I did to do that particular piece of work or whatever, and you realize you need to make a change. Remember, it's for your highest good. So go with the flow. If you're being shown by the universe that you're not where you're meant to be with regard to your skill sets or your talents or your abilities, then listen to that prompting. Go with the flow. Move to do something new. Get a new a new degree or certificate in whatever field, and do what you have to do. Flow with the door that's opening by the universe for you, or accept the door that's shutting in another area regarding your skills and abilities by the universe. So that's what I'm seeing for Aries, rising, sun or moon. And to conclude, thank you for hanging in there, my beautiful Taurian people who I love with all my heart. Shake-ups, changes and upheavals are not usually your familiar territory, but for you they are happening in the second house. Now, this could be quite difficult because it's happening in the house of the resources that you generate for yourself to survive, to thrive in the world. These are both the first house and the second house are very highly self-sufficient houses, and the second house is about the resources that you create yourself that support your journey. So very entrepreneurial kind of energy, second house, because what you do to make the money that helps you survive, that could be going through a change, that could be going through an upheaval. So in that sense, it could mean a change in jobs, change in careers, to earn money in a different way to support your journey. Your investments might go through some upheaval and some change. There might be some uncertainty with an investment. There might be some tension with a currency. There might be, second house is currencies. There could be unexpected events with currencies, with money, with investments, those kinds of things. So, you know, sit tight. This energy will last from the 29th of July through to the 10th of August. The activation will be happening at any stage in that time frame. And it's going to, remember, keep the long term in mind. It's going to happen for your highest good, for the ultimate growth of your soul over a long-term picture, maybe many lifetimes. What happens now is actually serving the greater good. We have to cling to that hope, especially when upheavals come. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean this eclipse that something bad is about to unfold. It could be that suddenly your investment takes off. Suddenly, you know, there's a change, the unexpected happens in a beautiful way, and you know, you get a good interest return on an investment that you've made, or some currency investment that you've put your money into suddenly skyrockets, or there could be positive changes. You might get a change in job that gives you a promotion and you're suddenly earning more money. This is also a house of self-worth, self-valuing. So you might also find that your own personal self-worth and self-valuing goes through some sort of unexpected change for the better as well. Suddenly you're treasuring yourself, you're honoring yourself, you're not giving yourself away for the sake of other people anymore, and you're standing in your own Taurian strength with how much you love yourself and how much you're willing to honor yourself because of some event that's activated by the eclipse. So that's what I'm seeing, my dear, lovely, precious YouTube followers. It's so lovely to join you here each week. I love doing these reads for you. I hope they're a blessing to you. I'm going to conclude with a prayer now. Energy of love. Well, we welcome in whatever the universe wants to bring us with regard to this eclipse. We know it is designed for our highest good. We ask that you help our hearts and our minds and our souls remain open to the change that wants to come in, so that we can flow into the next stage in our soul's evolution. Be present with us, support us as we go on, help us to achieve high vibrations so that we can lift the energy on earth to a better state and get through this year of upheaval again. Thank you so much for all the wisdom that comes our way. May we be a blessing to one another and to life on the planet. And so it is. Well, look, thank you for joining me for the prayer each week. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it does mean a lot to some people. And you know, to go into it, just a little, you know, I have configurations in my chart that would support praying as a helpful mechanism, let's say. So without going too deeply into that. So thank you to those who do tune in for the prayer each week. May you be blessed, my lovely friends, and I will have another Astro Weather Report for you next week. I'll catch you then.